What's up, guys? Jeremy Clark here, coming to you from Premium Tier Futures Discord. And you can find me on X at Phils Jackson or at Premium FTS. And just here chatting with David, one of our members. So, what's up, man? You're at a Tesla charging station, I think you just told me.
That's right. Yep.
How long does
stop?
How long does that take to charge up?
Like 25 minutes, depending on where your battery's at. But we started at 20, so 20 to 80%. It's about 25 minutes. But it's true, you get the Tesla Wi-Fi when you hook up, so it works, man. And I got my laptop out here, so we're chilling.
That's sick.
Getting ready for the week.
That's way better than going to the gas station. They don't have Wi-Fi at the gas station.
That's right. Yep.
What about food? Have you been to that what's it called, that thing in Hollywood, the Tesla the lot, where
the drive-in?
Yeah, the drive-in.
No, I haven't actually. I've been meaning to check it out and just pass by, but I actually haven't had a chance. But I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's just it's interesting because you know how they have like the setup where I think the projection is like on a apartment wall or something.
Right.
I think they had a cover up or something like that. Right? So it's interesting. I'm sure there's mixed opinions from the residents there. So
I happened to drive by. I might have been the first day it opened or something. I was just headed that way. I didn't know anything about it, and it looks cool. It kind of looks like a 1950s drive-in, like a, there's kind of the movie screen projected on the side of the wall, like you said. But I think there's like food and there's different models of Tesla you can sit in or whatever. It looks like a cool place to just kind of hang out.
Yeah, that's something I definitely will have to check out. For now, I do like coming to the Tesla superchargers just because they charge your car so quick, man. I don't know if you have an EV, but man, that's the one thing is that hopefully as I begin to.
Yeah, I don't
at my house, because otherwise, it's a pain.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't have an EV yet. I'd love to. We'll get there at some point. But
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
But what's cooking here? What do we got? What are we looking ahead at this week? I really wanted to hop on this to kind of get a feel for what you're seeing. And granted, you've been trading all year, so talk to me.
Yeah. So kind of what you were just talking about regarding the market. I think the volatility had really fallen off, especially in August, July. I don't know if you were trading during that period at all, but it was rough. You might get 30-40 minutes in the morning where price would take off, but it was doing weird things. Price was, I was talking about this with Eli, and we'd sign on because he trades the open, I usually trade the open, and like the first hour nothing would happen, and then you'd kind of pack it up and be like, okay, well, I'm done. And then I'd be sitting here and all of a sudden the market would take off, in the second hour. And, I'm like, that's kind of different. Why is that? Right. And I don't know what was causing that, if the professionals were just coming to work late, or if there was no professionals and it was just retail was like, okay, we're doing this, or I don't know what was causing that, but it was for sure a thing. And then I noticed right when September hit, and then we had the new contract start, the December contract.
Oh, right, the rollover.
Yeah, when it rolled, all of a sudden volume came back in the market, like overall, and it got a lot more tradable. We've had some good mornings the last couple weeks.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that as well. And when I came back like in August, like I told you, it felt like that post low rate market, right, where rates were starting to increase back in 23.
Yeah.
And the market was just more there was just less opportunities. And what's interesting is that that year when I remember meeting you at the cafe when I was trading almost every day basically because I would go into to work like midday.
Yeah.
Um, I got used to it, and I was really in a great groove with knowing how to pick my spots. And as I came back, again, I felt rusty. Number one, but also number two, just adapting to a lack of volatility, um, and having not practiced. It felt like I've just been forcing trades, specifically in August, just forcing a lot of trades. But I do feel like the last 2 weeks have been a lot better, and maybe because, like you said, there has been some better mornings, some better opportunities that I'm finding. Again, I'm getting back into that group and being able to pick my spots more patiently.
Yeah.
Just understanding that every day is not going to be tradable. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's a tough
just
thing
being
to.
selective is key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough thing to absorb. That's something else I've been talking to Eli about a lot. Is there might be 1 or 2 days during the week where the E-mini is just not tradable. It's like recognizing that,
Right.
and I think recognizing that is one thing, but like sticking to it and actually acknowledging it and just walking away on those days, that's a whole other thing. Because you'll sit there and
that's the next step.
yeah, you start looking for these micro setups. You're like, well, it's kind of a terrible price action, but I could probably sneak in 8 or 10 ticks here and there, and sometimes you can, right? And then but then it can turn against you really quickly, and so that's something I've been working on too. Is like following my own advice. I take notes and being like, okay, today doesn't look so tradable. Now that being said, it's been very tradable. Last week was great. Tons of opportunities.
Last week was great for sure. Again, I think you make a good point because last week there was one day, was it maybe Thursday? Was it Thursday? No. I missed that reversal. I want to say like maybe around 9 a.m. I missed that. But after that, it was just chopping sideways. And I think Dave in the Discord was also mentioning how, we probably weren't going to have much continuation if we did reverse back to the high of the day that was made. I think maybe in the early morning at the open.
Yeah.
And so I literally because I was only really able to have screen time from maybe like 9 to 12 that day, I literally just had like screen time where it was just chopping up, no opportunity for me, no clear opportunity. And, sometimes you just have to live with that, even though it feels like a waste of time. It feels like, a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Honestly, there has been Fridays, and this is what I mentioned in Discord as well. There's been Fridays where, again, same kind of concepts, same idea, just lack of continuation, lack of actual opportunity, and I end up, taking 4 trades on taking a trade and it becoming 4 trade where I'm over trading and revenge trading at that point because of the fact that I just couldn't walk away, like you said, right?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to do.
It's so one, and then once it happens, it only takes like one bad day, one lack of control, of self-control to just spiral, for you to just spiral into those bad habits. And so for me, Friday was great because I couldn't put on a trade. Thursday I had a great trade. I walked away with 20, I think plus 24 or 28 ticks. Wednesday I was negative 8 ticks, and I remember I called it off, and wasn't a great setup, but then I bounced back on Thursday, and then I was just able to walk away, Friday, thankfully. So I think, like you said, taking those notes and then having that momentum is big because going into the following week, if you're going in with momentum and you come out with a nice setup and the market presents some good opportunity early on in the week, and now you're just compounding that confidence, and it just seems like you just continue to get their setups. You're rewarded for that, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That kind of resonated with me. What you're saying. I've really been trying to take a look at what the actual momentum of the market is, and if it's there to begin with, and when
Mhm.
it is, that's when you got to hit it. It's like hit while the iron's hot, or whatever that saying is. Like when there's
Right,
momentum,
and that's the thing. If you take yourself out of that opportunity, like you just absolutely, or at least I'll speak for myself, I absolutely like my judgment just is just clouded so much that I can't even take advantage of those A plus setups, of those opportunities where it's like the market's gifting you free money,
yeah,
and because because I burned myself so much, it's like, you know what? I'll wait for this, next thing to happen when that was the setup,
man,
right?
I feel you on that so much. I mean, that was my experience in August. It was like, caution, 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 risk off, careful, careful, don't trust any move. And then I carried that mentality into September, and then all of a sudden I'm being like overly cautious. I'm not letting anything breathe, and I realized, wow, the market dynamics have changed, and
Right.
you know,
That's the big thing that I noticed is like, yo, I have to. The market dynamics have changed in terms of like volume, in terms of who is present, like you said, whether it's professional traders or retail or whatever the case may be, and then what events are happening.
yeah,
But also just technically speaking, what I pointed out the other week was trading at like all time highs is so difficult for. I have found that is difficult for me just because we've continued.
we're cutting a
In
lot.
fact, oh, sorry about that.
You're right.
Uh, yeah, as I was saying, we continue to chop up and make new highs, but it's not with, I don't know, I guess with conviction, or
Hmm.
there's just it's kind of unclear how far the market wants to move in one direction, or what price it's chasing after, especially as it's making new highs, it's just naturally.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think so I realized, yo, I need to figure out how I want to trade in this type of environment, just in terms of the technicals, right? And right now, I was looking at, like, you're looking at the is this the weekly? Yeah, I was looking at the weekly, and even
yeah.
the daily. I can still see a place where we continue, moving up higher, right? I don't
Well,
know. What are
yeah.
your thoughts?
I mean, we haven't actually even touched the bottom of this weekly trend line. And this is the weekly chart. So if I drop down to the daily, there's probably another 50 or 100 points in there. Let's see, 67 up to 18. So yeah, that's like 60 points to test the bottom. And in all likelihood, we'll get back inside that channel. And if we do get back inside the channel, then we'll probably end up testing the midline and the high, which puts us. I remember somebody saying 7,000, for the E-mini was like,
Yeah,
like the top or something. And
right.
if that scenario plays out, then we're looking at 75, 76, and and up from
It
there. I think there's a bunch of
Yeah,
news
it's
this week
very
too.
feasible.
There's a bunch of economic data coming in. Let's see, we've got tomorrow's the 29th, right? So we've got home sales. Tuesday we've got jolts and consumer confidence. Wednesday, okay, we have the OPEC meetings that can cause a lot of volatility. We've got PMI, non-farm employment. Thursday, we got unemployment. That's always a big one. And then Friday, we've got like four things. We've got the hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, unemployment rate, and the PMI. So
Hmm.
Friday could be our trend day with all of those
Yeah, I
catalysts.
mean, anything related to unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Friday could be a big one for sure. I think like that's what we're starting to see. It feels like things are picking up a little bit more, as everybody kind of realizes naturally the year is already wrapping up, right? So it's go time for any moves that need to happen or take place, or policy changes that are going to be accounted for. It's probably going to be here in October. and in a little bit into November as well. I don't know when's our next FOMC meeting.
Let's see. I'm looking at it right now. We've got meeting minutes next week. Not this week, not but next week, October 8th. That's a Wednesday, and that'll be 11 a.m. Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
and
I
they're
mean,
going to announce another rate change soon. I don't know if it'll be that Wednesday, but they'll probably hint at what it's going to be that day. And we know we've got. I'm pretty sure we have uh, one more rate change to be announced, right?
I believe
Or
so.
rate
Before
cut.
the
I'm sorry. Yeah, one more
rate
rate.
cut.
I think we've got one more, possibly two, but definitely one more for 25. So that's gonna.
November. Yeah, right. November 6th and 7th would be the next meeting. Is that wait no? Is that's 2024? Oh yeah, the 28th, 29th. It looks like
Of
w-
of
of October.
of October.
hmm
Let's
Yeah, end of
see.
October.
I'm just looking that up right now. So 29th. Yeah, the statement right there, press conference. So that'll be the next rate cut.
Yeah, so we got a whole month leading up to that. So hopefully this, brings some volatility,
Yeah,
some opportunity.
it's going to be bullish. I'm positive that's going to all be bullish, even if it's not the biggest rate cut or what people want or what Trump
Yeah,
wants.
because people are feeling it, right? Like, I mean, I think just locally speaking, I mean, at least here in LA, I know you're here in LA as well. It
Yeah,
just there's a lot of uncertainty around jobs, around prices still, obviously tariffs. So um, yeah, I think the pressure is finally being applied to the Fed. Not to mention again the administration that they're up against or
hmm
supposed to be in partner with, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so and also like I said, just in terms of the technicals, like if it's bullish, like you said, I mean, it just seems like the continuation setup is there. We 7,000s are definitely in play. Like I don't see why not at this point.
yeah,
At this point, we're running out of like runway in terms of the year. We'll start in a great place in January, and then see where that goes, and we'll have all year basically to regress the market wants to, or whatever happens then, or what the outlook looks like then, and but yeah, I think October sounds like it could be a good month, good opportunity.
yeah. I think so too. Just looking at we're looking at the daily chart. You can see there's an uptrend happening here, and the last candle, which would have been Friday. So that guy right there, we've got a
hmm
engulfing candle overlapping
Right.
higher, which is bullish, and then today, this is already today.
That's the open today, right?
So
Yeah.
we opened above the close of Friday. Uh, there's a wick down, but then it came back up to it. So we're already,
We're already in play. We're preparing, and that's what I think. What happened Friday was a big clue because the way the market closed, it basically, I think it ended up breaking the high. Right? Let me go back if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at the
Almost.
Friday is the light colored uh, vertical box,
Gotcha.
and 6,662, and that happened.
Yeah, it like almost got back to the high. Yeah, basically in
Yeah,
the nearing the close, a little bit in the after the close. Yeah, like
yeah. In
like
the
130. We got close to it for sure.
Yeah, it kind of bounced back. That was a clue, that it was coming back up. Um,
Yeah, again, it was chopping, and there was like a slight of thought that maybe the market wanted to really pull back, and this was probably like around noon, where there was an opportunity for sellers to really maybe range back in
mhm.
and maybe show some sign of indecision in defense. But yeah, it looks like just the way the price action has been moving and the way it's been sideways, chopping and trending up higher is just the same type of price action that I feel we've been seeing the past couple weeks in terms
Yeah.
of just sellers not they're just not being selling or not any selling. So
The dip is being bought. I mean, that's for sure, and you can see that on the previous day as well. I think this was Thursday. You see that big wick. I'm looking at the 30-minute here, and then again on Friday that big wick. So and this is kind of a something I stumbled across in one of the books. When you get a big move up in the pre-market,
right.
or let me put it another way, when you get a big move, directional move in the pre-market. A lot of times what will happen is it'll get reversed during the regular market. And so we have this big dip, right? This was the dip. And then you can see right around 6:30, that's, New York Open to 7:30,
Right.
that first hour, it completely reversed, right? And then it chopped,
And then it chopped.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I was able to take some of these longs just knowing that it had dropped in the pre-market, and vice versa when it goes up in the pre-market quite a bit, then a lot of times it kind of chops down and falls off during the regular market. So it's like just kind of knowing that. That's like an 80%
Right.
thing. It really helps.
And I would add to what you said, where usually, like you said, you're able to buy that up. And what I've noticed as well is, so we see at 7 a.m. Is like when the rejection happens, and we get that quick reversal back to what is it, pre-market kind of lows, or like 4 a.m. lows.
Yeah.
And then it gets bought back up. That's what I've seen a lot on Fridays this year, like based on the times that I've kind of tapped into the chart on a Friday in the morning. Like you said, we'll have that buying come in the pre-market, the selling come in, at the open or around 7 a.m. And then, we defend and kind of just chop away. And even in this little chop here, like I can see how that 9 a.m. Move where we finally kind of broke through that's the spot that I'd like to usually take the reversal, right, on that that handle, so to speak. Once it's kind of the selling has, or like the indecision has kind of subsided, that's where I like to pick my spot. So it's interesting that for you tend to trade at the open, or a little bit after, right? It sounds like.
I've been focusing about 15 minutes after the open. So, 9:45 Eastern, and I'll trade up until 11:15, maybe 11:30 Eastern. And that's what if I'm going to go heavy, it's going to be during that period. But afterwards, that area that you're talking about, like that happens around 9 a.m. Pacific, which I guess is 12 o'clock, what is that, lunchtime or noon Eastern. I do see a lot of reversals at that time. So then I might trade, maybe I'll switch to micros and trade smaller or something during that period.
Yeah.
Because it's happened so frequently, and it's kind of a reversal time that just seems to repeat. So I keep my eye out for that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, I don't know about you, but I need so number one, before I move on, I wanted to ask you, like, typically how do you play your stops? Like how many ticks do you trail? Do you?
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
what I've been doing lately, I have I think it's a 19 tick catastrophic stop in place, just because there are occasions where you just get wicked against. And I try to get out, around 4 ticks manually if it's going to go against me. I try to definitely not let it go more than 8 ticks because, that's $100 on one contract. And I just try to stick to that. As far as trailing,
Gotcha.
It depends on the day. If it's choppy and it's ugly and it's reversing on you, what seems to work for me is I'll lock 4 ticks and then I'll lock 8 ticks and
Uh-huh.
then if it gets up to like 12 ticks, it's probably going to reverse on me, and I can either get out or I can just take that 8 ticks and move on to the next trade. That's when it's choppy.
Mm, gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
when it's moving, it's like I'll let it breathe, and sometimes I'll let it breathe at break even. If I get in on that perfect little edge and it moves up like 8, 12 ticks, boom, and then
Right.
I see it pulling back, and I'm watching the order flow to see if we got orders coming in, and we do, and it's hesitating on the way down. It's not slamming down. I'll let that breathe, and I'll let that run, and especially if it's a trend
You let that
day,
run.
if it's
Yeah.
one of those Freaky Fridays, or one of those. Dude, we had a trend on, I think, Monday. I think it was last Monday,
Let me know.
and it just literally from the opening bell it just took off.
I think
And
I see, yeah, I didn't
yeah,
trade that day, but I did see that. I was like, nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it was you're right, Monday.
yeah, and
Yeah, that's like those are the days where they're gifts, as long as again, it happens time to time where I may be trying to fight the trend, but when it's clear like this, it's for the most part you're gonna hit something, as
yeah,
long as you're in the right direct. You really just got to get the right direction. But yeah, that was a nice day, Monday.
yeah, yeah. Monday was
Yeah.
cool.
So then how many trades would you say you averaged
Good question.
per day?
If I'm following my rules, I want to say in the neighborhood of 4 to 8. Maybe
Okay.
7. If I'm over trading, or it's just one of those days where there's a ton of volatility, and I'm still good, then it might move up 15 to 20. But I feel bad saying that, because even that is kind of breaking my rules. I really focus on
Right.
2 to 3 good setups and leave some room for some bad setups, because I think overall I'm not really hitting more than 57% win rate. So, you know, you got to give yourself room to lose a few. And sometimes that helps me, figure out what the market's going to do. But yeah, I've been
Yeah,
really
they're kind of like
focusing,
I see.
focusing on less trades. Like when I first met you and I was trading at the Capital One Cafe, I would sit there in the overnight session, and I'd place 30, 40, 50 trades, right? And even if I was trading micros, and it was just, there came a point where it was like, I really got to focus on good setups and, good volume in the morning, good volatility.
Yeah, no, that I remember those days, and yeah, I guess that also provides you that batting practice that
Yeah,
you
for
need,
sure. For
as a
sure.
trader, like you said, you give yourself some cushion to work with, but also you develop, you figure out, you know, how you want to trade, what your style going to look like. And that's the reason I asked, though, because it's so interesting how every trader just operates differently and just has the capacity to trade in different ways, and that evolves over time naturally as well. But you know, again, I remember I met you and I told you like, yo, I typically just try to trade like one trade a day. At least I
That's
look
right.
for one good one a day, right?
I remember
And that's
that.
still kind of like my methodology, or like that's what I try to stick to, because for me, what I have found is, and honestly, I can relate this to sports as well, because when I hoop and I play basketball, and I take a shot or something, like a 3-point shot, and I miss, and I'm just like, I'm so hard on myself, where I'm like, God damn, like I could have got into this spot a little bit better. I should have pump faked and then like take a step back and then balance myself and then take the shot,
Take the breath.
versus kind of
Yeah.
versus letting it flow a little bit more natural, or like versus kind of forcing it, I guess.
Yeah.
um and the same thing with trading is true for me. I feel like after my first trade, regardless of the outcome, it's difficult for me to get back to like a normal state of mind without taking, unless I take a break or something, right, and walk away and then come back. And I think that's because, well, for many reasons, right? Like, one, I don't want to be wrong, but number two, um, you're just I'm always like looking to be perfect.
Yeah.
And with trading, you gotta live with like the imperfection, and like you said, you gotta give yourself opportunities to lose. And so I like that you do that, right? You take some shots, and sometimes, like you said, it might go in your direction right away, and now you kind of know how to trail or not trail or adjust as
Yeah.
the market has been played that day, or has been trading that day. So I like that. But like I said, for me, I do feel like just having that one bullet in the chamber is something I like better, because I also can kind of walk away and then come back, and then hopefully the chart has kind of moved in a way that allows me that advantage that I feel, or setting it, or preparing for a setup I'm looking for.
Totally.
But then it's a double-edged sword, right? Because then I miss a lot of opportunities, and not only do I miss a lot of opportunities, but also that also contributes to like me coming in and trading, after I see something happen at 8 a.m., right? Or at the open, I'm like, God damn, like I should have been awake, or I should have,
Right.
been trading. And and so I can't, maybe I'm not operating with the clearest mind at that point, just because of that FOMO I'm feeling.
Yeah, I know exactly. So I walk away a lot, and I have this general rule, and I'm gonna be honest, I almost never follow it perfectly, but I like to say, if I have 2 losses in a row, mandatory 10-minute break, and I get up and I walk outside. I go stand in the sunlight. I practice deep breathing, because a lot of times I'm sitting there like clenched. I'm not breathing. I'm like, and I just let myself be as pissed off as I can, and just like, fuck, god damn it, that motherfucker. I just let it out, and then I take a few deep breaths, and sunshine. Maybe I walk the dog, whatever, and the whole time it's like the chart's about to change. You're gonna miss it. You're gonna FOMO. It's happening. Like it's happening while you're just taking this break. And if that's where my mind is at, that's a red flag. And so I stay out there for a few minutes, and I just ignore the chart. Sometimes I walk the dog, because the dogs will settle me. All of a sudden it's like sunshine and grass, and then I say, whatever happens. I'm going to come back and look at the chart now. And a lot of times from doing that, all of that choppy messiness or whatever it was that was messing me up will now have changed, and all of a sudden it's a tradable market. And then boom, I'm in the chair and I'm just locked in. And
Exactly. So
and
that's a perfect story. Yeah.
And I had that experience on Friday. Dude, my win rate on Friday was like 17%. It was like abysmal. But I kept, I was kind of above break even, or coming back up to break even. Like I wasn't having big losses, but I was just getting angry. And I must have walked outside and did breathing exercises like 3 or 4 times. My neighbors are probably like, what's his problem? Pacing around the yard, But I came back, and then I saw that moment, and I just killed it, and undid all of my losses, and had like a huge day. And that really spoke to me. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like getting out of that headspace, even just for 5 or 10 minutes, coming back to it. You're not going to miss it, because the market always has new opportunities.
Exactly. And that's where you want to get to. And you just think about, like, imagine if like you could have just avoided everything before that and then just basically put into play what you did when you came back with the fresh and clean mind.
Yeah.
Is, I think, the point where us as traders, we all want to get to. But but it's also good that, in some ways that we have to go through like those losses, but also just, again, that awareness, that self-awareness, right? That, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and I need to, get back to neutrality to be able to trade, going forward, or like continue to trade well for that specific day, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, neutrality. That's a good word.
That's the big one, right? Yeah, neutrality. Because for me, what I've noticed, and I think it's interesting, like obviously we're looking at patterns when it comes to the charts, but also in terms of our own behavior. what I have found is that I will have like charted a setup that I was preparing for, and maybe like I forgot about and pass, and I come back and exactly what I was preparing for, anticipating for, I missed.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, whether it's an hour, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, that I end up putting on another trade, it ends up being the case that I don't take a good setup after that.
Because
it ends up being like something forced.
Because you missed you saw the setup, you missed it, and now you're trying to force a trade, to make it back. Yeah, I know exactly. I think we've all been there. We've all done that.
Exactly, and so that's the one where I still get that, and I still continuously break down and put on that trade where I feel like I need to set up the rule where I end up just calling it a day, basically.
Yeah.
until I can confidently feel that I can actually start trading, I guess with neutrality again.
Yeah, I feel you.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, it's similar to the rule where I have where, like, again, one trade for me, it's really not just because I'm waiting for one good setup, but I feel that after one trade, whether it's a win or loss, I guess with a win, I would say my win rate's probably stronger on the second trade. But once I take the first loss, it's like, man, it's the likelihood of me trading well after that, I think just has dropped.
It goes out the window.
Like the percentage has, like it's not even worth it. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. That's why I try to focus on an hour to hour and a half, because I see my reflexes go down, my response time gets weaker, and I do start trying to force trades if I missed a trade, like you said. So I have those rules in place, but I don't always follow them, but they're there. And it keeps me out of trouble most days.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you said that, because I remember I would tell you that, and I still do this as well, but like what I call my, we have the 30-minute open, and then from 7 to 9 is what I call the first quarter, 9 to 11 the second quarter, and then, the third quarter, 11 to 1, just because that's, they're equally spaced out. And I think I need to get back to the place where I remember I was really trading well for like a 2-month stretch. I think this is when I had like a 150K account that I had gotten funded with Apex at that time. And what I was doing was really just showing up 9 to 11 a.m. And just trading that, and, sitting that time interval, during that time interval, and trading that only, whether I put on a trade or not. But trying to stick to one trade, and I was trading so well. And I think it's just because it's, the feeling of not adding pressure to having to take a trade, but also having to see something that's not there, right? And forcing a trade.
Yeah.
Just helped my trading overall, but also just having that 6:30, even the pre-market, but also that data leading up to that 9 to 11, a.m. sweet spot, and knowing how the market typically was behaving, just was a part of my edge, I guess. And right now, because like my mornings and with work are a little sporadic, it's so hard to stay focused on a certain time. And I'm kind of just like, all right, I'm trading anything and everything that I can. Not in the sense that I'm putting on trades, but I'm actually just, charting. And if anything comes at any time period, I'm ready to try to take a trade. And so I think that's also been adding to the difficulty that I've been having lately. So yeah, I really like that you have, you have it pretty well structured where you're like, hey, these are the times I'm trading, or I'm trying to stick to that. Because I think that'll help me, because you can't possibly think that you can sit at the screen. I would say honestly, the average person probably more than like 3 hours and confidently say that you're performing at a high level. I don't.
Oh yeah.
I feel that the more screen time I have, the stronger the dip in my performance I see. In fact, I would say there's times where I just check it, and I'm sure you see this, and other traders, I'm sure can speak to this, where you might have just peeked the chart for like 5 minutes, and the setup, and like you play the setup perfectly, and you're done. Like it's insane. It's insane to think about, and that reminds me of like one, how random in some ways, obviously the market setups come, but two, understanding that you're not being rewarded based on the amount of screen time that you're putting on. It's really based on, you know, what your trading style is, your advantage, your edge, what you like to trade, what type of setups that are important, right? And a lot of people say, like, related to poker, right, or Texas Hold'em, for example, where, you know, you're not if you get if you receive a 2 and a 7, right, off the rip, which are cards that are notoriously known to be like the worst cards to have when you play Texas Hold'em, for those that haven't played, it would be ludicrous for me. Like I've played it with family and friends, right, growing up, and for me, whenever I would get a 2 and a 7, I would fold. Basically, I'd, you know, whatever I had already placed in terms of the buy-in, I would just fold and just cut my loss, basically.
Yeah, so
right?
you're working the probabilities on that.
Exactly. It was automatic, right? But when it comes to trading, for some reason, I may have seen the choppiest morning ever, and I might still think, oh, well, you know what? You know, maybe the 7, you know, 2 7s can come out on the flop, right? Like, no, it can, but it's very unlikely. And even then, there's probably better cards, better setups that are you know, that are worth, you know, taking and waiting for. And maybe that's another day, right?
Yeah, start with a fresh hand. You know, reset the whole process. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's something else I want to touch on. I was just looking over the statistics for, you know, traders that trade in prop firms, and, you know, coming from Apex, they said the most successful prop firm traders are only in the market like 30 to 45 minutes a day. I think less than an hour is what the average was. And everyone else that's in the market for longer than that tends to do more poorly. So, you know,
that's a great stat.
That's eye-opening.
And if you think, what's crazy is, so like this past week, I came out positive, like, I would say, let me see. Let me look at my account real quick. I came out positive, and what I would say is there's weeks where, or like basically this whole week I took maybe 3 trades, and I came out more positive this week than other weeks where I'm trading every day and I have all the time in the morning to trade, right?
Yeah. I've had that experience too.
Any trader can speak to that, right? Any trader can speak to that. It's you know, it's logical, right? It doesn't matter, like, you know, how much wins you put on if your win rate is lower, and you know, go ahead.
I've had weeks where I think it was the week before where I had to miss a couple days. You know, I hate to miss a day, even if I don't trade a lot. I want to be in the market, but I had to miss. I had life was happening, and I had to do stuff. I had, you know, appointments or whatever it was. And so I only got to trade 3 days that week, and I did better that week, only trading 3 days, than I did the week before. And I kind of started to see that pattern. I was like, oh, I just got lucky, and I happened to trade the days when there was volatility in the market. You know, maybe I need to take a look at that, and that's another signal, like, stay out on those days when it's low volatility.
And that also speaks to the point you made earlier about just naturally, or not naturally, but just in terms of the market dynamics this year, and since August, right? The lack of volatility, the lack of you know, follow through, lack of big news. Even with our recent Fed meeting, right? It was kind of like it wasn't as big as we thought it could be for the market. Obviously, also that, you know, comes from the fact that, you know, the Fed didn't really decrease rates as much as some were probably anticipating, and some of the words that Jerome Powell spoke to. But even then, just in general, like, there's just been less opportunities, and so therefore, if there's less opportunities, then we should be kind of in some ways trading less, right?
For sure.
And again, that's just the tough part about being a trader. And I think also what I want to highlight as well is that it's so hard because we're trading. Well, I'm trading one ticker only, right? The ES or for example SPY. If you're trading options, but we're not day traders. Or I don't know about you. Are you only trading the ES as well?
Yeah, I pretty much specialize in the ES.
Right. So it's not like we're trading other tickers that we could just turn to and start with a different type of chart where maybe that has different fundamentals, different characteristics that might provide another opportunity, like these other traders that I see that trade equities, right?
Yeah.
And have like the pick of the litter of like many other tickers. But then for me, like that is just, there's just going to be too many variables for me to have to consider for me to even want to trade equities and other tickers, where I've also just been watching the ES for the past like 3 to 4 years, and I feel so connected to it, I guess, where I rather continue trying to master my work, master how I trade, master like my what is it called? My constraint or my restrictions, right?
Yeah.
My criteria, and continue to trade this way and continue to specialize, right? For maybe the next 10 years and see what that looks like then, and then maybe I'll consider something else. But I get the idea that with this trajectory that we're on, I don't think I'd ever have to change.
Yeah. No, I like the idea of trading equities too. And certainly mixing it up, looking at the Russell, looking at the NASDAQ. I'm just focused on ES right now. And I'll probably go back to day trading some stocks, equities, at some point. One of the things I've noticed too, just circling back to the volatility, I've been looking at some of the old educational materials from Jigsaw. And this is probably like 2014, I think these videos were made. And there's like, generally speaking, on the bid there's like 1,000 lots, and on the ask there's like 2,000. So if you're looking at 10 levels of the price ladder, you've got like 10,000, 12,000, 14,000 lots going through on both sides. And when I look at the price ladder now, it's like 50. If you get 100 lots, it might be a reversal, it might be a continuation, but there's no like 1,000 lot orders. Very rarely there might be one, right? And it could be a spoof, but like the order flow.
Why do you think that is?
There's something happened historically around that time. I forget if it was like the high frequency trading thing really advanced, or something came in and took a lot of the volatility out of the market, and it took a lot of the old traders out, and so it's been less since that period. I feel like it'll get back eventually, but it's a slow climb. But so we're dealing with conditions that are harder to trade than they were like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, in comparison to most recently during the pandemic as well, I remember 2020, end of 2021, 2022, well, really 2021, but yeah, I remember the price action then, and it's crazy. I wish I had what I know today, I wish I had then, but I think I also benefited in some ways just being involved at that, or starting to trade at that time.
Yeah.
Because now I can appreciate that price action. I can appreciate the difference in different market environments. And like you said, I think that's what's beautiful about trading as well, is that you navigate different waters, different uncharted territories. And as long as you survive, you know what I'm saying? That is the game, right? Surviving and continuing to make progress. I don't know. It's just when I take time to kind of discuss it in this way, it makes me appreciate knowing how to trade and having learned it, right? I don't know. It's just it's a language that, us as traders can kind of relate to and connect in and see how different we are when we trade, and what we do, right? So I think it's great. To what you had brought up about prop firms. So I had gotten the 50K account funded, and I blew it. When did I blow it? I blew it. I think it was like mid-September or something. Yeah, I think it was mid-September because I had gotten it funded at like end of August. I blew it mid-September, but I blew it because I was just trading so poorly. I got to the point where I was really taking one trade a day, but my win loss just absolutely took me out. It was terrible. But granted, I was trading with bigger size. Like I was definitely not trading like, let me see, definitely not trading 5% of the drawdown.
Right.
I think it was definitely like 20% for sure, because I wanted to move quickly. Mm-hmm. So I didn't give myself that many bullets to play with. But it was a good warm up because what I ended up doing was just going back to my like personally funded account. And it reminded me because I really needed that to get some drills and some practice, but it also reminded me of how much I love trading like my personal account because I see the rewards right away, right? And I think there's something to be said about being able to see the money that you're earning and be able to withdraw that, right, instantly. Whereas you can do the same with your prop accounts, your PA accounts, and get payouts. But I just think the ramp up period is a high opportunity cost for me in terms of time. Right, just in terms of time, because obviously it's not guaranteed you're going to get a payout. I don't know. Did you mention the statistic on how many people, or I don't know if you mentioned the statistic on how many people get paid out? I don't know if it's like 7% or something of prop firm accounts get paid out.
It might be less than that. I think there's a percentage of people that reach payout, which I'm pretty sure it's fewer than 15%. But out of that 15% of people that actually make it to payout, the percentage of people that consistently make a payout over time is only
drops.
It's 1 to 3%. It's hideously low, right?
It's hard for a reason, it's and I think it's just, again, it's because of the fact that that money, you've invested some money, and really the most important thing for me is you've invested a lot of time, but it's just so easy to put that all, go all in, right? And put more, raise the pot, so to speak, and risk more than you really should, and that you really would have with your own personal money. Mm-hmm. Your own personal account. And so for that reason, for me, I've just been trading my personal. I've just been going back to 1 micro on the ES, and then I'm trying to hit these targets so that way I can start scaling up again.
That's good.
But the fact that these past 2 weeks, basically I've been able to, this Friday I finished, this week I finished kind of strong, where I did have 2 wins and 1 loss. So I just paid myself, right? And being able to see that payout come through and be rewarded for your positive actions, I think just has that, provides that confidence. And also in terms of just, paying yourself, for the work that we're doing, it also, I think, reinforces those those positive habits. Whereas, again, trading with a prop firm or trying to get your account funded and then being funded, it just takes so much time. If you're doing it the right way, it should still take some time, I feel, to get your payouts, right? I think probably the earliest I ever got a payout was probably 22 days. So when I see some people do it in a short amount of time, I'm just dang. It's.
I always think that's conditions. They happen to get lucky and it was a good day. I don't know. These people that post all these big profits on Twitter and stuff like that, it's maybe that day, that week they did well, but over time, how are they really doing? I started trading with Take Profit Trader recently, and he's got a book that it's free and it tells you the secret to trade prop firms. And his biggest suggestion is really to just trade one contract, especially if you're anything below like 100K. If you're on a 50K account or a 75K account, he's like, just trade one contract. There's no reason to be over leveraging and trading 5 or 6 contracts trying to, make this huge win. You got to be able to do consistent small wins and compound profits, right?
Right. It's funny though, because I can go from trading 5 ES MES contracts, and feel like that's barely enough risk on a prop account, but then I go to a one micro on my personal and feel like, okay, this is okay.
No, I do the same thing.
No, it's funny though, like psychologically, like what the idea of trading a prop account does, at least for me, right? And I think for most, but yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. You said Take Profit Trader, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a pretty solid reputation. They're about double the price of Apex, but then when you get funded, you don't have to pay for the live account. So basically, if you can pass the eval, then you're automatically funded without having to buy the live account.
The live account. Yeah. Gotcha.
So
there's
cool.
Already like more of an investment, inherent investment from the start. So the idea is that you would take the process serious.
Yeah, and I like them. And what I'm doing these days, and this is part of the reason why I also scaled down, started using a lot less leverage, is I'm typically trading with a trade copier. And if I'm using my personal account, you can do cross orders, so you can trade the micros in your personal and trade a mini, in a prop firm. And so I'm usually trading 3 to 4 accounts every day. And if it's a tough day and I only make $100, well, I'm still spreading it out. That's $300, $400 across 4 accounts or whatever,
Right.
And so that's another thing that I've really been focusing on. And one thing I noticed with the trade copier, if you're scalping and you're doing like 100, 130 trades in one session, it'll glitch out on you after like 20, 30 trades. And you'll start getting multiples, you'll start getting doubled trades, and just all hell will break loose. So I really found with that, if I stick to under 10, 15 max trades, the trade copier works great. I have no issues. I'm using Flowbots, that Replicanto copier. I love it. And I used to really.
How much do you pay for that?
I think it was $200 to buy the license, and then I think if you want to use 2 computers, it might be somewhere around $85 or $75 for the second computer, something like that. It's a lifetime license.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that definitely sounds like a good investment. I think that's something I need to look into for sure, because I do like trading my personal account. Again,
yeah, I do too.
I think, I love the feeling of just, even when I do lose, right? Like it's still, it's meaningful in the way that I just, until my account's funded with the PA, like it's difficult to get that same feeling. And it just feels like, I'm scratching a lottery ticket when I'm buying new accounts. And so that's not the proper way to do it. So I think like having the trade copier is like perfect, because then it takes away a little bit, like you said, even if it's just one prop account that I'm copying, but just trading primarily off of my personal account, knowing that there is some stakes on the line, I think just allows me to trade that properly.
Yeah, and I like what you said about take some payment, take some profit out. When you have profit, pay yourself. That positive effect that it has on your psyche carries forward into your next day of trading, and it builds on itself. So I think that's a wise way to do it.
Yeah, because the way I was seeing it for this past week, right, I was like, going into Friday, I was like, all right, I'm in the profit, I'm in the green for this week. I'm ready to take a payout, or not a payout, but just withdraw money from my TradeOvate account. And I was like, You know what? Should I even put on a trade today? Like, I don't really have to. Like, I mean, even if, yeah, I mean, if there's an opportunity, perfect. If not, then, I made a good amount of money this week. This is good enough for me. Like, hey, I can go into the weekend feeling nice, feeling good about how I traded. Go into the new week where there might be new opportunities, and I can kind of, preserve some of that capital for that. And that was kind of like what got me over the hump in trading Friday and not putting on a trade, where I could have easily just put on a trade and, maybe given back some profits, right? So
Yeah. That's cool.
That's that positive reinforcement that has for sure.
This is some great stuff, Dave. I'm glad you were able to hop on tonight. We're hitting just over an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short, so we can
this is great.
Get prepped.
Get ready for the week. Yeah,
prep for tomorrow.
I think next week we'll definitely we should definitely do this again, and I know we can maybe create something more structured where we can have some analysis for the week in terms of like the technicals and the charting.
For sure. Good, we had a good chat about psychology and risk management and trading habits and stuff. It's just we don't always touch on that, so this is kind of a cool, unique one. I like that. We just kind of followed what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm gonna for sure, try to do my best to take notes this week, see what I, find throughout the week, and so that way next week we have some good stuff to talk about in terms of the trading.
Yeah, we'll get more technical on the next one, for sure.
Yeah. All right, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, this is coming to you from the Premium Tier Futures Discord. Here with David, one of our traders. And if you can find us on Twitter, at Phils Jackson, at Premium FTS, and also the YouTube channel is at Shaggy's Chop Zone. I'm sorry, at the Chop Zone on YouTube, and that would be at Shaggy's Chop Zone on X. Thanks for watching. Hit me up in the comments. Feel free to join the Discord. It's free. We trade every day, Monday through Friday. And I will see you out there. Keep it green.